Hello. So, Trump's Toolbox agency. I was designing Trump's Toolbox agency by Christmas. Probably a little after Christmas. Why was I doing this? I was doing it for fun. I was doing it because I wanted to do something. I wanted to get a job. And what kind of job did I want? I wanted a job where I could design biology. Design and develop biology. But I looked around, and I had been looking around for years, and I realized that no one really knew how to do it. That it wasn't really a thing. That you couldn't really go anywhere where they were designing and developing organisms. Just wasn't a thing. So, I decided to make it a thing. What was my inspiration? Radio Shack and Donald Trump. Let's start with Donald Trump. Donald Trump likes real estate. I guess we're just talking about Radio Shack too. Radio Shack went bankrupt. So, to get people to start designing and developing biology, I realized that I had to get everyone to be doing it. How was I going to do that? How did FDR get all the people to start farming in the Great Depression? He subsidized everything. I've always been inspired by Radio Shack. I've always been like, if I ever wanted to start designing computers, I could just go to Radio Shack. If I ever wanted to start designing circuits, I'd go to Radio Shack. When I was, a long time ago, when I was 20, so 5 years, I was like super interested in neurology, the study of the brain, study of neurons. And I realized that the brain is just like a circuit board, except for way better. So if I ever wanted to get the basics of a brain, I'd go to Radio Shack and understand the basics of a circuit. Because the brain is just a giant circuit. A complex circuit, not a complicated circuit. So, that's Radio Shack. And a cell is just a circuit too. Cascade flows of information with proteins as the receptors and things like that. So, Trump's Toolbox Agency. I called it Trump's Toolbox Agency because I was going to take it to Donald Trump. Why not just go right to the very top? I mean, halfway through I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to contact Donald Trump, but I can contact my representatives. So I made lists of all the representatives I needed to contact. The House Majority Leader, the House Minority Leader, etc. And also the Massachusetts government, because if the federal government wouldn't take it, the Massachusetts government would take it. So, this agency would need real estate all over the country. Like everywhere where there's a Radio Shack, there should also be Trump's Toolbox Agency. Now, Trump's Toolbox Agency doesn't have to be an agency. It's probably never going to be an agency. It's probably going to be a company. Something very much like Trump's Toolbox Agency. A thing with, the black box, blanks, cells, and proteins. And carbon. They'd all be in the store, this agency. Subsidized or cheap or whatever. So, I was designing Trump's Toolbox Agency, and I realized, I made like the store design. I designed how the store would look. I designed the black box. I came up with an idea for blank cells being used that weren't human cells because people have a problem with stem cell research, so yeah. But I realized that I didn't know how to design and develop organisms. I would take this there, and they'd be like, well, what do you do with this? It's just... People didn't know how to design and develop organisms. That's the basic realization that I came to, and was like, I'm basically coming to these people with nothing. I mean, really, it was everything. But it was missing the bare basic essentials. Like the basic question of how do you develop an organism? How do you design a complex or complicated macromolecule? How do you design these things? And I realized I didn't know how. Like, maybe other people do. They don't, but maybe they do. At the very least, I did not know how. So, I set about. I had already designed the agency. I'd already designed everything. They didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to do anything more. I could have kept going and, like, literally written the law. I could have done that. I was thinking about it. I was getting into, like, how to write a law. And I was looking up how they made the federal agencies. I was looking up how they made federal agencies in the past. So I was doing all that. But then I got sidetracked because I was like... This was, like, right around the time where I made the black box, and I was like, well, the technology is right in front of my face, and I still don't even know how to use it. Like my dad, he knows how to program. I do not know how to program a cell. And I wanted to get as basic as I could get. I didn't care about transcription factors and stuff like that. That's already known. I know how to use transcription factors, and they have their correlate in programming. They do. They have their correlate in maturity as well. We'll get back to that some other time. Actually, we'll get to that right now. When I was writing the law for Trump's Toolbox Agency, or before I had written the law, I was just brainstorming. I was going to go to Congress with this paper. Basically a speech. Like, as if I was writing something as if the representatives would let me talk on C-SPAN in the Hall of Representatives. They wouldn't, but I could give it to someone and he'd make the speech for me. I guess, maybe. Anyway, when I was writing the speech, there were three main areas that I was looking into: biologic, electronics, and maturity. Alchemic studies, basically. Not basically. Maturity is alchemic studies on another level. Alchemic processing is a much better word. Let's go with alchemic processing, electronics, and biologic. Not biology. This is magic. Right, that's what I'm doing right now. When I say biologic, not biology, I'm doing something right there. It's very important you understand the basics behind what I just did by saying biologic, not biology. Anyway, there was those three things. And I realized they were all the same thing. If I understood how I could do one, I would understand how to do all the others. So this is when I got into the basics. This is when I got into like looking at things. What is the basic question? How do I answer the most basic? How do I answer the question of how to design and develop, basically? This is when I got into etymology. I gave up on Trump's Toolbox agency. I wouldn't say gave up. I'd say I didn't feel like I had enough for the senators and the representatives. I didn't have enough on how to answer the basic question of how to design and develop. Because if the senators and the representatives were anything, if they had any kind of insight into the world, they would have asked me, how do you develop an organism? And I didn't want to be stuck on that question. So I got into etymology. And I found this sentence: wizardry is the art of producing magical things visualized by a wizard. Wizardry is the art of producing magical things visualized by a wizard. Keep that in mind. So I got into etymology, and I started breaking down the word biology. A bunch of other words too. But we're going to stick with biology. I kind of left out electronics. Once I got to the basics, I could figure out electronics from the bottom up, not top down, like, or scratch the top down part, just however people have been working with circuits forever. I was going to do it a different way. I have totally left electronics, like at this moment right now. Not in my story, this moment right now. I don't pay any attention to electronics. And I've kind of left biology. All I've been doing is looking into maturity. Which is disappointing. but I'm still looking for the basic question of how to design and develop. I should probably not be paying so much attention to maturity and just go back to this basic question: how to design and develop. So, I got into etymology. And I realized the word biology was all wrong for what I was trying to do. I got very mad. I was very disappointed in the education system. So disappointed. Like, I had this, revelation right then and there, and I was like, wow. This is so wrong. The study of is so wrong. And I don't really know what happened from there on. I don't know if I got into rhetoric first, before I realized biology was so wrong, or I got into it right after, but it happened around the same time. Around the time I realized biology was so wrong, the wrong way to go about it, I got into rhetoric. And I realized rhetoric was growth, not biology. What is rhetoric? Rhetoric is the manipulation of ethos, logos, pathos. As if you can manipulate logos. Logos is the Sorcerer's Stone at some level. Anyway. How did I get my vision? I rebelled from Logi. I rebelled from Logi. I rebelled from the study of. I was like, I'm never going to study anything again. I'm going to grow forever. And then I took the word biology. And I broke it apart. Biology. I figured out prefixes and suffixes right then and there. It just hit me. And I knew. I just knew that magic I used on you earlier. When I said biologic, not biology. And from that point on in my life, I just knew how to do that type of magic, how to do that type of word communication. I can just do it all the time now. Wizardry is the art of producing magical things visualized by a wizard. Religion is the art of producing mature things visualized by a prophet. I just made that up. How many months has it been since I discovered wizardry is the art of producing magical things produced by a wizard? And I finally come up with religion is the art of producing mature things visualized by a prophet. Anyway, I destroyed my notes. So I don't have the paper. that I'm currently visualizing in my head. It was a good one. For example, citizenry is the art of producing citizens designed, visualized, designed and developed by government. Designed and developed by writers, designed and developed by mature people. Whatever. Military is the art of producing militaristic things produced by a soldier. Art of producing tactics visualized by a soldier. Art of producing a strategy tactically visualized by a soldier. I don't know. So if you're looking at what I'm doing, if you're writing these things down and you're looking at them, I'm just changing the suffixes. I'm also changing the root word. Mirrorism. It's the art of producing a mirror visualized by a mirrorist. Mirrorism is the art of producing the sorcerer's stone visualized by a mirrorist. Anyway, back to Trump's Toolbox agency. Where was I? Whatever. Back to rhetoric. I discovered ethos, logos, pathos. I had already known them. But I rediscovered them. And I was like, this is the key. Why is ethos, logos, pathos the key? Because every unit has it. Every unit of influence has ethos, logos, pathos. And ethos, logos, pathos is what we manipulate. Ethos and pathos is what we manipulate. You don't manipulate the logos. Logos just flows. But we can manipulate ethos and pathos. So that was it. I did it. Right then and there, I figured out the unit of information and the ethos, logos, pathos of the unit of information. At the most bare and basic level. And then I had my vision. While reading the Book of Job, which is totally separate. Book of Job was the last part to get my vision. Everything I was talking about was everything leading up to it. Trump's Toolbox agency was me trying to do good for the whole world. It was me looking for the stone, not to use it, but just share it. I wasn't even looking for the stone. I had no idea. I was looking for the stone. I mean, I did because I knew about the stone and I knew about the Philosopher's Stone. But I didn't I wasn't thinking about it right then and there. Wasn't really thinking about Jesus. I was just thinking about ethos, logos, pathos. I was just thinking about biology. I was just thinking about maturity. Oh yeah, why was I doing all this? I know I said some reason earlier about why I was doing it. That's not true, that earlier reason I gave. It was true at some point, but that's not really why I started. Pathogen. That's why I started. I realized that I could design and develop a pathogen. And if I realized that, I'm not the only one who realized it. I've heard for years that people are gonna find smallpox and release it. Make it a little bit better. Not what I'm talking about. Kinda what I'm talking about. It's pretty close. But really, what I'm talking about is designing one from scratch. There's probably way better receptors, probably way more efficient receptors in the body than smallpox is found. And I could design it. Probably right now, if I was given all the materials there are in the world and I had a lab, I could design a pathogen. I could have did that before I had my vision. I'm that good at biology. I know that much about it. And if I didn't, I could study a bit more. And I wouldn't have to study much, because I'd know exactly where to look. Because I'm a pickup artist, I know receptors and triggers. I know rhetoric. Rhetoric is the art of understanding. I can understand anything. And I'm pretty good at it. So that's it. That's Trump's Toolbox agency. Design and develop. Wizardry is the art of producing magical things visualized by a wizard. Religion is the art of producing mature things visualized by a prophet. Maybe it's mature people. People equals things. At some level of maturity. Religion at the level of maturity of a prophet is where people are things. No, at some level of the quote, religion is the art of producing mature people visualized by a prophet. At some level, it's a little bit different, and you see people as things. I don't know what art that is, what religion that is, I don't know. Remember the magic I used earlier. Changing around the suffix, changing around the prefix is not as important as changing the suffix. The suffix is where you do the most change to a person's belief system, where they're visualizing things, to their belief statements. That's how you do the most change to it. You change the suffix. Art is the key. Religion is the key. Religion is how we do art. I'll see you.